Welcome back to the Relentless Minds podcast. I am your host, Lori Jimenez. I created this platform with a sole mission, and that is to inspire people of all backgrounds to create the change they wish to see in their lives and in the world by sharing the examples of those who are. As a listener, you will hear the stories of ordinary men and women with extraordinary stories of overcoming adversities in order to experience the life they dream of. All of these individuals share a common interest. They desire a change for the better, and they are in a relentless pursuit to create that for themselves. If you're looking for inspiration to overcome challenges in your own life to create a life that you desire to have, then you have come to the right place. You see, the truth is, people everywhere are fighting for what they believe in, and together, with relentless action and mental strength, I have no doubt that we can fulfill that dream. In today's episode, you will hear the story of Lepilali and Meleji, two strong, hopeful individuals from Tanzania, Africa, that have had to face and overcome very trying challenges that could have been debilitating for many others. Lepilali had to face a complete lack of support from his family when he chose a life that was not the life he had been given and expected to follow. He wanted to pursue higher education and become a doctor, instead of tending cattle and becoming a warrior. A few years later, Lepilali met Meleji, a young albino boy who had been neglected and rejected by his family and community due to his albinism, and he decided to become a big part of Meleji's life to help him with the support he needed to survive and thrive. Please enjoy this episode as we dive into a different culture and learn about the challenges that many children and young dreamers in Eastern Africa face in their daily lives. Hi Lepilali, I want to thank you so much for being here to share your story of growing up in the Maasai tribe and your journey to being where you are today, to going to the university and contributing back to your community in the ways that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi Lauren, as you pointed out, I am Lepilali Ngoilenya from Tanzania. I'm currently a university student pursuing my first degree as a medical doctor. So I'm happy also to have you on call.
I wanted to ask you, Lepilali, you're a Maasai. You grew up in Africa.
Yeah.
Maasai is a tribe, that inhabits areas of Kenya and Tanzania. How was your life growing up in the Maasai tribe?
Growing in a Maasai family or community, it is kind of very complicated, particularly on parenting. The way Maasai raise their kids, the way they train them. So for me, I faced a very challenging life growing in that Maasai family. One being that I had that big dream of going to school since I was young, but they were opposing what I was dreaming of. So they raised me in the way of becoming a warrior. So they not prepare me for school, they prepare me for becoming a warrior. And they prepare me to be a successor in a family. So I went through training, traditional training. So when I was like 6 years, 6, 7, then they took me to in a bush where we stay with kettles and warriors, but you won't see your mom. And that the way they were training us, as they want to make us brave. So I stayed like 3 years in the bush, training me on how to take care of kettles, how to take care of family, and many trainings. So I grew in the way that I was kind of separated from mother care. So I not received that much care from my mom. And the other thing is, Maasai are so rude. I can say that. They are so rude to their kids. They don't have that friend and that family friendship. They don't have that daddy daughter or daddy son friendship. They don't have that. So you will be like growing in an environment that is very harsh. If you do something, they will beat you. They don't excuse you. No excuse. So you'll be very careful doing things, and you grow rude as well. The other thing that's not good when you grow in a Maasai family is they teach you how to become someone who don't like women. That women are bad, women are weak, women cannot do this, women cannot do that. So you grow in them in the environment that you hate your young sister, you hate your sisters, and you think that they are weak, they cannot do this, they cannot go school, they cannot become rich, they cannot become people with influence. So that's how Maasai train their family, that's how they raise kids.
You weren't trained or taught to care for education. You were taught to care about being a warrior and about being a man and carrying on this legacy. You were taught to dislike women. I know that you're now doing a lot of activities involved with women and combating some tribal customs that are practiced, specifically FGM, which is female genital mutilation, and child marriage. And I want to get into those topics. But I would first like to ask you, when it came to your time growing up and being faced with these challenges of not having that support for education, why was it that you still cared about pursuing education? And what was it that was inspiring you or motivating you to go after that in life?
What was motivating me the most to look the chance for me to get education, one being because of the family I grew. We were so poor, I can say, absolutely poor. And there was one family nearby our family. They were not that much poor as we were, but it is because they had one lady who was educated. And again, the other thing, I visited my uncle who had a radio. I listened the late president of Tanzania, and he was like insisting people to go to school. I asked my uncle, what is the president talking? And he said, he is insisting people to take kids to school. And that was my stepping stone. So I knew that there is school. So I was hung of getting that education, getting that chance to go to school for my family to be rich like the nearby family. The other, it is because I wanted my young sisters and my oldest sister to not be circumcised. And I know that the only thing that will help me to save them is to get education, because whoever educated in my family, whoever educated in our community or in our society, they are very respected. So I wanted that respect. I wanted to be someone who can talk and people listen. So that pushed me a lot to seek chance to go to school.
What were some of the significant challenges, though, that you had to face to pursue this life that was completely different from the life that your tribe and your parents were presenting in front of you? Did you have anybody else that was supporting your dreams?
I had no one who was supporting my dream of going to school. I had no one. Despite the fact that my mom was not opposing me, but she was not strong to stand and say, okay, this kid must go to school. That because the position of a woman in Maasai family is very, very low. So women, they don't have voice. So even my mom was not able to stand by my side and say, hey Lepilali, you have to go to school. So I had no one who was supporting me. And I had a brother who actually was not supporting me, but was not again opposing me. And I had to overcome a lot of challenges. Started fighting for me to go to school. That made my daddy to hate me a lot. I was like violating a position of becoming a warrior now. I wanted to learn that Western culture. So my daddy thought like, now you are moving from becoming a warrior. I prepared you to become a warrior for the past 6 years. Now you are moving from being a warrior. You want to learn a Western culture. No, that was very bad, and it made me to run away from home and went to stay with my grandmother from my mother's side. So I ran away from home for 6 years, and I went to stay with my grandma mom, and I told her that I have to go to school, and she said, yes, fine, you have to go to school, but I'm worried that if you go to school and your daddy realize that you are in school, that I might be in trouble. So it took me a long time to convince her that I have to go to school. The other challenge My peer abandoned me, and they don't recognize me as their peer. They mocked me and they were bullying at me that now you don't want to become a warrior, you don't want to stay in the bush and raise cattle and take care of cattle and become a strong warrior. Now you are going to school to become weak and then learn those stupid Western cultures which does not take you anywhere. So they abandoned me, and so I was like alone. By the moment now I fought to get a chance to go school, yes, then I was able to go school. But the school is was very far. So the moment I moved from home where I stay with my grandmother to school is the distance of like 10 or more kilometers. Moving a distance of 10 kilometers along the way, you meet those warriors in a groups, then they beat me because I was wearing school uniform. They found me wearing those clothes. They beat me like, why are you wearing these clothes? You are not supposed to wear these western cultural things. You are supposed to be in a warrior's uniform, warrior's clothes. Why are you wearing this? So it was very challenging for me to go through that.
You know, I'm very curious to know what made education, like receiving education, going to school, what made that so important to you internally, you know, other than how you felt it would give you an opportunity for riches and wealth and a position of respect. But what did receiving that education mean to you, that it made it worth going through the rejection of your family, the lack of support, the risk for beatings from your peers?
Okay, so when I was a little boy, the way I thought education is actually I thought education like being given knowledge, being given or skills. That the way I thought education, and I thought receiving education meant that you are going to be empowered on something you are not power on. You are going to be given skills where you don't have skills, and that what I thought of education. And it is real that education is to be empowered, to be skilled. But I thought that when I was a little boy, and very little boy, and why I thought that, it is because I was training on cultural knowledge, on cultural stuffs, but still I was not confident. Still I was not able to stand and talk to elders. And I thought, if I will get another chance of getting education, probably I might be confident, I might get skills, I might get knowledge, and I will be able to speak. So internally in my heart, the way I define education is like a power, is like another higher step of being powered instead of being strong, but being power and confident. And that's why I was like looking and seeking and trying to find that gap between what I know, what I had, and what is needed. So I was trying to fill the gap of having skills, particularly in education aspect.
So that's an interesting spin. If I'm understanding that correctly, you viewed education as your strength, as opposed to knowing how to wield a weapon and be a warrior. You were using knowledge and intellect to be your weapon of choice, and everything that would then allow you to achieve later on in life, including having a better future for yourself, for your family, having the respect from your family and your peers. You said that growing up you were from a very poor family. How were you able to get through school financially, and what were some of the challenges you had to overcome there?
It is true that I grew in a very poor family, a family that cannot make 100 USDs per year. One of the reasons that made me to succeed on that, it is first because I had that willing of going to school, and for me money was not a problem. So I started school standard 1 to standard 4 with no formal uniform. Yes, I had some clothes look like uniform but not actually uniform, and I borrowed it from friends. I borrowed it from families who takes their kids to school, so I borrowed from them. If they buy new uniform to their kids, then I borrow the old uniform. So that's how I went to school. But again, we had no fee for primary school. We don't have fee for primary schools in Tanzania, so it was a free education. You go to school, you just need to have your exercise books, you need to have your pen, you need to have your pencils, and then you go to school. When I was staying with my grandmother, I get a chance to do a local business. I can say it is a local business. So it's like you go to someone farm who have already harvested all the crops, but there are some small remaining crops on the ground. Then you was like picking and collecting those small crops, beans, maize. Then if you collect like 1 kilogram, then you'll be able to exchange with people. Then they provide you exercise books, they provide you pen. Then that the business I was doing. I go to the farm, I ask the owner of the farm that because you have harvested all the crops, you have collected all the crops, allow me to get into your farm and collect those small remaining crops, then I will be able to sell again to you. Then you give me money. Then I I get money for me to buy exercise books, I get money for me to buy pens. And it was tough moment again, because if you collect enough, you sell to people, then the people again will might not give you money. So you'll be like going tomorrow, come tomorrow I give you money, and then come the next day I give you money. It was a very challenge, but I managed despite the fact that my family could not afford to provide me primary school education, just to provide me uniforms and exercise books. But I managed it, and I don't blame them, because they were not in a place, they were not in a position to do so, because they have to take care of us in terms of food and clothes and treatment, but they don't have extra to take me to school. And again, they don't support school. If they could not be supporting school, at least they can do something for me, but they don't support me of going to school.
Wow, Lepilali, you're absolutely incredible. And that's amazing to see that even though you had all of these obstacles, you didn't have the support of your parents. And the money could have been, a lot of people could have seen that as a problem. You didn't view that as a problem yourself, and you just looked to find a solution. And that's very, very inspiring. I know that you came into contact with Asante Africa organization at some point. That's how I actually discovered you. And I know that they were helping you through this journey to some extent. When was it that you came across Asante Africa, and what did they do to help you to get further along in this journey?
I think to ask you of Asante Africa, and just to say, it's not to some extent, it is to a huge extent. I managed to finish standard school 2008, and I was able to get a good grade to go secondary school. And on the process of me getting to secondary school, it was a real tough time. And because now imagine the family who was not able to provide you uniform to go primary school, a school where you don't pay fee. Now they are required to pay for your fee, which was like around 50 USD per year. Now imagine a family who was not able to provide you like less than 5 USDs for to get uniform. Now they are pushed to pay 50 USDs. It was a tough moment, and the family was not able. And by that time, my older brother was running a small business, and now he realized that I have effort, and I was a top class student in primary school, and he was able to save some money, and he was able to pay and to buy me uniform and small contribution for me to start secondary school. But he was not able to pay school fee, which was around 50 USDs for a year. So I went the school I was selected to join, and it was like that I met the patron student patron, and I talked to him, and I explained myself, and I explained the background of my family, my background, my community, and everything. I share everything, and I say, but despite the fact that I don't have school fee, but I need education. I need to stay and study, and I have uniforms, I have exercise books, I have pens. So I don't have somewhere to stay, and I won't eat in school, but I will study. And say, now we can allow you to stay, we can allow you to use our classes to write your exercise books you have, but you want to sleep because you did not pay the place to sleep, and you won't eat because you did not pay fee for food. How are you going to survive? It was a kind of joke, but it was paining to me. Then I say, it is fine, I will stay, I know I will survive, I'm strong to survive. So he allowed me, he talked to a headmaster, and they allow me to stay. So I promised me, I lied. I told them that my brother told me that he will send money soon to cover the fee. So I lied, and they say, okay, fine, you stay here. How long will it take for your brother to send the money? I say 1 month. Then okay, it's fine, you stay. Yeah, then I stayed. So I stayed for that period of time. They given me 1 month, then it is over. They given me another 1 month, and then it is over again. Another month, like 3 months, no money coming, and it is no money because my brother is not even planning to send it. So of course the school sent me back home, and I went back, and so I stayed home like 1 week. Then I went back to school and tell them that I could not get money, and if you can provide me some times to stay, my brother will get money to pay you. And they allow me to sometimes, and later on my brother sent half of the fee, and it was like 6 months already in school. It was difficult, it was really difficult, but I was able to finish that year. Then after that year now is now where I met Asante Africa, 2010, and the school announced that there are people who provide scholarship. So if you have good grade, if you have good performance, we will enroll you to the program. Then you write the letter and you apply for the scholarship. And I did. I applied for the scholarship. I went through the interview, I wrote the letter, I tell the stories. Then Asante Africa provided me scholarship. It was really unbelievable that there is someone who is going to take care of my fee. They pay all fee from Form 1 to Form 4. They provide me school uniforms, they provide me pocket money, books, stationaries, and everything. And top of that, they enroll me to the leadership and entrepreneurship trainings, seminars. So I was attending seminars, I was attending leadership trainings, entrepreneurship trainings. Then I realized that I was missing a lot of things because I had no a clear dream who I want to become in my life in the future. Then I realized that I wanted to become a doctor. And the reason why I wanted to become a doctor is because in our village, my grandmother was a traditional healer. Those who provide traditional medicine, they provide traditional medicine, they deliver women in village. So my grandmother was doing that work. Then I wanted to become a doctor who can now do modern medicine, not a traditional medicine. And that is through Asante Africa, because I could not know there is someone called a doctor. It is just because of Asante Africa who trained me on how to map a dream, how to develop your own dream. Reason number two, because my mom, once when I was in primary school, my mom gets sick. She was admitted to the district hospital, and she got miscarriage. She got miscarriage, and she stayed like 1 week in the hospital, and he was like receiving intensive care. So I was curious that how can I now come and prevent miscarriage to women, because it was painful moment for me to see my mom is getting miscarriage, and it was not one, it had like 3 miscarriage consecutively. And I wanted to know exactly how this happened and how could I help young women.
So the Asante Africa organization truly helped you to find who it was that you were really meant to be. Also, the Asante Africa organization teaches the pay it forward principle, which calls you to help others in the same way that you also received help. Can you tell us the ways in which you have implemented this principle in your own life?
So personally, I liked the program of Pay It Forward, and I took some initiative of creating some small projects that will help me to do a Pay It Forward. The first project I was doing, I was training primary school kids, primary school students from rural communities, and I was training them on their dreams. You know, in village or in primary schools, kids don't have exposure to meet different people in different careers. They just know teachers. They know teachers and few careers. Actually, they don't get exposure to know who a doctor is, who is a nurse, who is an engineer, who is a pilot. So what I did, I went to 6 schools in a rural community, in rural primary schools, and started teaching them just how can they map their dream, how can they develop their dreams and aim higher. And I was giving them examples of who is a teacher, who is an engineer, and all, for them to know that there are those people, there are those careers, they're existing. So I did so in 2012, 2013, and 2014. So I was doing for 6 schools. Later on, I scaled up the program to reach 10 schools by 2015, 2016, and 2017. And by 2018, I scaled up more to include 15 schools. And later on, I went further to accommodate 20 schools by 2018, 2019. And it was like a yearly program. Every year, I visited once and provide the trainings. Not only me, but I had a team of 10 youth who have skills. They are university students, some are colleges, and some are from secondary schools. The other program, I decided to develop a program of menstrual hygiene management, and this was focusing to train adolescent girls on menstrual period and how to respond, how to maintain, and all cleanliness during the menstrual period. And again, I did to rural communities, to villages, and this is because those are marginalized areas. Those are areas where education is not that much, and people don't visit, and they don't have exposure. No TV, no radio, and I was training on how do they manage menstrual cramps, and how do they use sanitary pads, and how to dispose, and how to change, and so forth. So it is now a 3 years program. I think I started 2017, 2018, and 2019, and I was able to cover 10 schools and some community and some rural community women who are not in school by visiting them and talk to them in groups, and also sometimes talk via phone, and more importantly sometimes talk via radio, but not every time. The other group I did the menstrual hygiene management is secondary school students. They don't also know much about menstrual hygiene management. So I visit secondary schools in town. And the other thing I did to pay it forward and to train the community on non-communicable diseases. These non-communicable diseases, I train on hypertension, I train on diabetes, cervical cancer for women, and breast cancer, both cervical cancer and breast cancer. And I do to via two different methods. The first one being the radio presentation. So like every Friday, I visit a nearby radio in town, and I will pick a topic particularly on this area on communicable diseases plus cervical cancer. Then I will present, and I've been doing so for 3 years now. So for 2 years, sorry. Of all those, I have one special program for female genital mutilation, or some people call females cutting. Now, the reason why I developed the female genital mutilation program is, and this is thoroughly for rural villages, particularly from pastoralist community. And this here I'm talking of a Maasai community, the community where I am from. So this program is aiming to fight and finish female genital mutilation, which is actually torturing, psychological torture, and also it's traumatic procedure. So I started this program very early, and I started when I was in secondary school, 2013, 2014. And the reason why I developed this program, female genital mutilation, is because when I was young, I was about to lose my sister, my oldest sister, who was circumcised and was about to die, bleeding a lot. Was taken to the hospital, and from the hospital was rescued, but actually she was about to die of female genital mutilation. I had also my uncle daughter who was about to die as well because of female genital cutting. And those are two factors which motivated me to start this program in our Maasai community, and was able to reach and talk, because in this program what I do, I talk with parents, I talk with elderly, I talk with seniors and juniors, and also I talk with girls, and I talk with boys. So if I talk with girls, I tell them to refuse. Then if I talk with boys, because the notion is that for Maasai boy, they won't agree to marry a girl who is not circumcised. So what I do, I tell the boys the effect they will encounter if the girl is circumcised. Like, for example, difficulty in delivery, during delivery, rupture during delivery, bleeding during delivery, so forth, and also difficult labor. So I was successful actually to reach and talk to many people, and I can tell you, in my village, in the village where I come from, they don't do circumcision at all nowadays. If they do it, it is in a very secret way, but they don't do it openly as it was before.
Wow, Lepilali, this is absolutely amazing. All of these programs that you've been implementing and helping people through those programs, you're really, really making a difference. And they're all really important programs too. The dream mapping, the menstrual hygiene management, the education on infections, and also the female genital mutilation education that you're providing. I wanted to ask you, because I'm very curious to know, when it comes to teaching people about new ideas and new concepts, how do you feel that they respond to that when it comes to the introduction of something new, of something that they didn't grow up knowing or understanding, and now you're providing this new way of thinking?
I can say it is not easy to change people. It is very difficult. And of course, when I started this program, it was very, very, very tough. It was very difficult to tell someone in a cultural setting to stop FGM. It was very difficult. It was very challenging, and people were not accepting at all. Personally, it took me many years because I started the program 2012 and the program went all the way to 2019 now, and not all people changed, particularly from the villages. Many are still have a static mind. They don't agree. They have their ideologies. That's why I say, in a district with more than 21 villages, I can only count 3 villages who have completely changed. They completely stopped doing FGM from a district with more than 21, 22 villages. Only 3, despite the fact that we visited all the district, all the villages within that district, but it's only 3 villages. You can see how people difficult to change. You show them real examples, someone who fainted, someone who was to die, or someone who get complication during delivery because of FGM, but yet they don't believe, they don't change. You tell them that if you let kids go to schools, they can become someone in position, they can become people who can help you, can help their siblings, and they can show them examples, but they don't mind your examples. But few will change. And now what I'm trying to tell here is that we don't do this program like 1 year or 2 years, then you expect to see a huge change. You just provide the trainings, you just provide the advocacy, and you let them to have times to change, because they cannot change abruptly. Now 3 villages have stopped the FGM. Remaining more than 15 villages are still practicing, but not that much. They have reduced. But I expect maybe by 10 years, these 15 villages have stopped completely to do FGM. Not only that, even child marriage. Some villages have stopped it through the advocacy and advice, but some are still practicing day and night. So dowry is not easy. I cannot lie and say all of them now they are not doing FGM. No, they need time to change. They need to, in their brain, to digest the advice we are giving them. It is not easy as well for primary kids to accept our training and change. Telling them to now start to develop your dream of becoming a doctor, and it is not easy, but I saw the program changing, making them improve their performance in class. Because if you tell them you want to become a doctor, now you need to work hard in science subject. If you want to become an engineer, you must work hard in mathematics. And you find them really they are working hard now because they have started aiming higher. Again, there are some villages who doesn't want those training at all, but we are using a friendly approach. We use those elderly to train few of them and tell them to go and talk to their fellow elders. They change. So if you can change one person, you go ahead and tell that individual to go and change another individual. Then at the end of the day, you find they have started change themselves. Then if you go now, you have people who are on your side within the same community. It's like you are dividing them. But it takes time.
Absolutely. I can definitely understand that. These are huge changes in the community of the Maasai tribe, and that implementing them in their own lives and letting their children live a different lifestyle than what they were exposed to, all of these things will take time. But what you're doing is great, and you're sticking to it, and that's very important. When you said that it was difficult for children to dream, why do you think that is?
So the first thing these kids are facing in dreaming or aiming higher is exposure. They don't have people around them who are doctors, who are engineers, or they just have a teacher in a class. So they don't meet people who can inspire them to become engineers, who can inspire them to become doctors or businessmen and women. They don't have, and because it is in village community, pastoralistic community, in the Maasai community where people are not educated, people are just focusing on pastoralism. But the other thing which is really hindering them is traditional teachings. If you go to school as a Maasai boy, they tell you you must finish standard 7 and come back to get married and come back to marry and continue with grazing, livestock keeping, and life will go. So the aim of taking them on to primary school, they just want them to, they just take them to primary school because the government is forcing them to take kids to school. So these kids, when they join school, they have that mentality that I just need to grow here and study and finish standard 7 and go back to be married and to marry and to continue with and continue with grazing and so forth. For me, it was a bit different because I was looking for exposure. By then, I was looking for exposure. I had time to talk with teachers. I had time to talk with whoever I met them on the way, and they have met to secondary school. I sit down and talk to them. I think the other thing, what made me to aim higher, it is because the harsh or the tough environment I was raised in, and I wanted to not go back to those environments. So I was seeking and I was fighting at least to go further for studies. When I meet Asante Africa and I participated in leadership programs, now there I learned these programs and I learned how to map your dream. And we met doctors who came to advise us, and engineers who came to advise us, and many careers, tourism and business. We met them and they advised us how to make to university. If you won't make to university, what will you be doing to at least to go back and continue? But if I could remain in a village and remain in the same schools and remain, and I could be the same.
You mentioned something really important, and that is the exposure. Because it's very true. These kids are not exposed to anything other than what they know in their community growing up. And so that's all they can hope to aspire to be. But exposure is a big key to growth and being able to conceptualize different ideas and different beliefs. When it comes to Meleji, because you have been able to be this mentor and this person in Meleji's life that introduces him to different ideas and to exposes him to different things where he can now dream to be more. Can you speak about Meleji, because he is so important, and what you're doing in his life to help him to get ahead, and the current challenges that he's facing as well?
So thank you so much for asking about Meleji. So Meleji is a 14 years old boy born and raised in a Maasai community in Monduli, and Meleji is the fifth kid in that family. And surprising that he the only one born that family with albinism. So Meleji is an albino boy. My first time to meet him was 2013, and I met him when I was doing my paid forward project under Asante Africa, and I met him when I was training primary kids on their dream. And by then I met him when he was in standard 3, and I met him in a school whereby all students are having school uniform except him. And so I was curious to know why Meleji the only one kid in this class with no uniform. So I did my training on dream mapping and hand washing, and after then I asked the teacher permission to meet that kid and talk. And I realized that he is a kid with what can I say? He was not a happy kid. That I can depict in an easy way. He was not a happy kid. He was so quiet in a class, so shy in a class, and he was at the back benches, and he was not able to talk or face anyone. He was like when you talk to him, and he was like looking down. And I try so hard to talk and interact to him, and I used the Maasai language and talk to him and ask what is going on with his life, and where is your family, where is your father, what are you doing, what is your father doing, when were you born, how old are you, and I created a friend and I asked him to take a picture with me. Then I leave. But when I was on my way, I had times like clicking on my mind. This is a kid with albinism. He is not happy. He was very depressed, and I was curious to know the family. So I came back, and again I got a chance to go to the same school in the next semester, and I asked him why he's not having uniform, and he said my father refused to provide me uniforms, and my mom is not having money to buy me uniforms, despite the fact she like me to be in school, but she does not have money to buy me uniform. And my daddy hate me a lot. He used to beat me. He used to provide me a lot of activities to do when I'm off school. So and I realized the reason of him being so sad. So I had small amount of money who I was saving when I was a secondary school student. So I decided to provide him with uniform and shoes. And because he is an albino, he is having skin cracking, he is having difficult in vision, so I decided to buy him sun protective glasses, one hat, for him to be protected from sun rays. Then I had no much. Then I leave him. In the next year, uh, I found him again, the same school, the same condition. Uniform I bought him are now old uniforms. The school, the shoes are over, and everything was old. So I changed, and I bought him another uniform. So I asked him to take me to the family. At least I talk with parents, and he did. He took me to the family. I talked to father, I talked to mother, and the father response was like, even him being school, I don't like. For you coming here and buy uniform for my son, I don't like it as well. So it was challenging, but I managed to talk with him for like 2 hours, and trying to explain why you should not abandon this kid. And he said, I don't like this kid because I don't like the condition. Maybe this is a curse from God. God has cursed my family through him, and I don't like him. I just need him to disappear in this family. I don't want to see him. And actually, that father decided to abandon that kid completely. So the kid was taken to stay with his uncle. So it is a very long story of him, but I was able to make sure he is safe in terms of UV rays by providing sun protective glasses, by providing a hat and uniform throughout his studies. So after he graduated, he finished his standard 7 to 2017. Then I disappeared. I was not able to meet again with him. But in 2018, 2019, and the middle, I was able to visit the same village, and I was going around asking where is Meleji, and I went to the family, and his daddy refused to direct me where he is. But by asking neighbors, I was able to find him in his uncle's house, and he was very sick. I can say he was very sick. He cannot sit, he cannot stand as well, he cannot speak well. He was sick. He was having total body cracking, skin cracking all over the body, was leaking, losing fluid, losing pulse sometimes. He had a very severe curvature of the back. We call it in the medical terminology kyphosis. It was very severe. He had blindness on right eye, total blindness. He cannot see at all, and many conditions he had. So what I did, I took him to the nearby hospital. He received minor treatments, and after there, I transferred him to health center and he was as well treated, and some diagnosis and some investigation. But the skin cracking had been superimposed by bacterial infections. So he was treated bacterial infections. He was dressed the wounds. He was given some fluids. He was very wasted. He improved, recovered a bit, and I asked the family to provide him to take him to where I live, at least for him to be nearby the whole big hospital for him to get treated. So that's how I took Meleji from that village to town here, where now I'm helping him on everything. It was not easy as well for the family to provide me him to allow me to take him here, despite the fact that they have abandoned him. But again, it was not easy for the family to allow me to take him to here. So when I brought him here, where I live now in Moshi, in a big hospital in the zone, it is a zone hospital, and I decided to ask a small contribution from my friends, from my lecturers, and they contribute me a small amount of money, like I can say like 500 USDs. So he stayed in the hospital like 2 weeks, and he treated and recovered. And after all the recovery, all phases of recovery, and he was like talking now, and he explained to me the torture he was receiving from the father, explained to me the difficulties of life in the family, the way kids in the same school were abandoning him, bullying at him, peeling the skin. He suffered a lot, not only from his father, but also from the surrounding community. They used to abandon him in every aspect. He was abandoned. He had no friend. He had no people to play with. He was like living as a single individual living in just one planet. Of course, Meleji was not able to perform to get a good grade for him to join secondary school according to the national guidelines. But when he recovered now here, he told me the reason why he was not able to meet the grade, and he told me that he was not able to meet the grade because he had blindness, one eye. He was not able to focus or reading, and he had reduced vision. So reading was very difficult for him because he had no specialized device for an albino to be able to read normal writings. So that was the reason for him to score a low grade. And what I did, I moved around to ask the special school for albinos for him to start. And fortunately, I got one school, and he has just joined the pre-Form 1 program in the special school for albinism. Now he is having reading device aids, magnificent machine, and all those devices needed for albino to read and to focus. Now he's a happy kid. He's now having a big dream of becoming a doctor in the future. Yeah, he's happy. His wealth now, the body and health is improving. Yeah.
Wow. So Meleji right now, he is in school. And I'm happy to hear that his health is improving and that his spirits are uplifted. But has his family come around to now support him in school and with everything that he's trying to do for himself?
For the first 2 weeks, when I took Meleji from the village to here, I have never received any call from the family or from his father or from his mother asking of him. But for as time goes, I have receiving some calls from the father asking the improvement of his son, and he promised me that he will visit him in the hospital, and as well as the mother called and say the same. And the family now is coming closer to Meleji, despite the fact that the family have not provided any financial support, I can say, but they are coming at least close to their son. And this is because I took time to explain the biological reason for someone who is normal to get an albino. and the father was very resistant of my concept, but as time goes, he is now understanding that it is possible for them to have an albino despite the fact that they are normal. And I do visit him like every weekend and talk to him. He is really improving. He is not shy as he was. He is making friends. He is interacting now, not that much, but he is improving when he compared to the previous time. I am sure he will improve more as time goes.
That's wonderful that Meleji's family is finally coming around. When it comes to Meleji's health, is there any other treatment that he needs?
Meleji have been diagnosed to have severe kyphosis, to have loss of vision by one eye, right eye. So right eye is gone, and he is having a severe cracking of the skin, which is putting him on the risk of carcinoma or cancer. So we are planning to treat him a definitive treatment by next month, starting with surgery of the spine to correct the spine, to correct that curvature, because the curvature is putting him on the risk of not being able to breathe well, and he is not able to stand straight or to sit. He leaning forward. The orthopedic surgeon will see him on 7th or December to do the surgery, and he will visit the dermatologist for the skin treatment, and again he will visit the ophthalmologist to get treated the eye which is working, because the one which has gone, it is gone. But we don't have money. Personally, I don't have money to help him, so I created the GoFundMe campaign online, and I am really asking people to support him by donating anything they have, and our target is to raise 10,000 USDs that will cover full treatment together with care for him, by providing him with insurance and health insurance and skin care and all costs that will relate to his health. And again, he will be able to take care of his studies. So kindly asking anyone who will listen this audio, please, if you have something to support him, please support him. Share our GoFundMe campaign to friends, to families, to whoever you know, and tell the story, and at least it will help to treat him, for him to realize his big dream of becoming a doctor to help others.
Thank you for sharing Meleji's story with us, Lepilali. I will be sure to share Meleji's GoFundMe page on Relentless Minds to hopefully gain enough support to help Meleji with his treatment, and so that he can continue to receive the services that he needs to get better. I wanted to ask you this question, Lepilali, and it's in regarding to this quote that we have of you, where you said, "We all have this giant dream that wakes us from our sleep." What is that giant dream for you?
I agree that we all have that big dream which make us wake up during sleep. And for me, my big dream is to become a cardiologist in making. Currently, I'm studying medicine. But my big dream is to help people, to help my community in terms of health, but again, in terms of cultural transformation that have been bounding us from aiming higher.
That's a wonderful dream, and we at Relentless Minds, we support you in that. Is there anything else that you would like to say to finish off this interview? Any final words that you would like to say to the audience?
Thanks so much, Laurie, for an interview. I'm so happy that we had time to talk. And what I can say to anyone, I like one quotation from Mother Teresa said, "If you cannot feed 100 people, then just feed one." And that have been a motivating quote for me, that I am not capable of helping many people. I am not capable of providing support for millions of people, because my personal I need help. But at least each year I touch one person, not necessarily material, and even knowledge, awareness. So if we cannot provide millions treatment, let us just provide Meleji treatment for him to realize his dream, for him to feel loved, for him to feel like he is a person among people, because he was at the point of seeing like he was born accidentally, that he was not required to live, that he is like regretting of being in this planet. So let us touch in a positive way his life and make him happy and make
Thank
him
you
feel
so
like
much for
the
listening to
world is
this
a better
episode.
place for
If
him
you
to
enjoyed
live.
it and feel inspired
Thank
and
you
would
so
like to
much,
be a part of the
Lepilali,
Relentless
for
Minds
sharing your
community,
story
you can
on
join
Relentless
the movement
Minds
for
and for being
change on
such a
Instagram
blessing
and Twitter.
to Meleji
We would also
and
love to
to
know how
all
your
of the other
experience has been
youths
as a
also
listener.
that you are
If you
touching
haven't yet,
through
please go to
your
Apple
educational
Podcasts and
programs
subscribe,
in your
rate,
community.
and review this
You're
podcast.
doing a wonderful job,
Join
and we
us
thank
next week
you
for
being
another
here today
powerful story.
to share exactly
Thank you
what you're
so
doing
much
and
for
to
listening.
inspire others
Until
to
next
get
time.
involved as well.
Thank you so much for being a loyal listener of the Relentless Minds podcast. I hope that you enjoyed and appreciated this interview with Lepilali. He is an incredible example of resilience and commitment to a better future. The next interview and episode on Relentless Minds will be launched in 2 weeks. Until then, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.